Hi, I ended a very wanted pregnancy at 16 weeks. I'm looking to educate on the many facets of reasoning behind terminating for a medical reason. The first one I want to talk about is two things: family composition and the social support or social resources of a family. So my therapist keenly pointed out that our family composition was myself, my husband, and our living child. Sometimes families have an easier time, sometimes adjusting to like a medical issue in a firstborn, because that's sort of what you can make the family status quo. It is a different ballgame when you have a living child or several living children, and how you're going to manage sort of trying to maintain the life of the living child while also working with and helping to maintain or survive for a very medically complex or medically fragile child. The second part is social supports. So social supports looks like, it takes a village. There are some families that are so lucky and they have grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins and, whatever. They have churches or synagogues or, mosques, and they're plugged into their communities. And there's other families who, moved and are not close to their family. They are not connected to some sort of institution or community. They're not plugged in because maybe they're new to a new area, or they just started their career. There's a lot of instances where families are not set up with social supports and social networks that help with raising a child. So for my family specifically, we have no social supports. It is myself, my husband, and our son. We do have a nanny that is hired help, and the reason we have a nanny is so that because if something unfortunately does happen to one of us, we have someone that's here, that's local, that lives here, and that knows our son and spends a lot of time with him. When my family was faced with the reality of my pregnancy and how medically complex and medically fragile that son would be, there was a lot of questions about who would watch our living child when I would be in the hospital for months, who would be able to, take shifts. My in-laws have a corporate job. They get 2 weeks of vacation a year. My parents are self-employed. They cannot take lots of time off to help. So we have no help. In addition to this, my husband is self-employed, and so when he works, that's our only income. That's just how it works. So asking him or thinking it's at all possible for our family to financially afford him being at the hospital or watching our son constantly is just not a reality of our situation. So again, the function of my series is to highlight and showcase the many nuances and some of the questions or problems or things that families have to deal with or have to look at when determining this really, really awful choice. And it's just a terrible situation for everyone, whether you choose to terminate or not. But this is one piece that is really important that I think sometimes you can tell the difference between someone who chooses to terminate and someone who doesn't. Oftentimes I see a lot of support around those people, and they have a lot of help, and that is so wonderful, but a lot of families do not have that.